Good morning. My name is Isael Vargas and I'm the Executive Director to San Jose Obrero Mission. This training has been put together for a case manager that will be engaging our participants here at the Families in Crisis program or at our participants over there at the Men in Crisis. Since case management in general has the same guidelines, the minor details of it will be captured at a later time through hands-on training. At this point, I want to start with case management and somewhat the process of how participants navigate the system through here. We all know that most participants come to us through word of mouth or referral. As soon as they come, whether they were invited to come by our program staff or they knock on that door, an intake is done immediately. At that particular time, they may not or may be an open bed. If we don't have an open bed available, we will put this person on the waiting list and attempt to refer this person to another place where the person may be stable. And then after we get the bed open, then we'll bring them back. And this has to do with either single, females, or families. At the beginning, an intake is done in which demographics are being captured. Anywhere from the age, social security if they have one, to where did they sleep last night, what their income situation is, race, background about the person, immediate information that's going to give us a picture. We're going to have a snapshot of what this person looks like and what this person may have been through in the past day or two or a week or so. Then within 48 hours, this individual or family is going to be seen by the case manager to conduct an assessment. And through the assessment, we really get into detail about the history of this person, if there may have been any domestic violence, substance abuse, mental health, the type of skills this person may have. We're also capturing background information from family members to see if a family reunification method can be used here. And in essence, capture what are the most immediate needs of this participant. It could be something as simple as a picture ID to be able to obtain employment, to something more complex, such as some medical needs that they may have, and even in the mental health division, what mental health problems they may exhibit that may require for us to move in a certain direction through one of our partners, whether it is Pills and Wellness Center or Beacon Therapeutic. Overall, the person is going to be really captured in a more in-depth way through a very cordial, compassionate, respectful, and leadership-oriented by the case manager. Establishing this trust, establishing this line of communication is going to ensure that you are effective at following up with the participant with the action plans that have been put into place. Action plans are going to be the capturing of immediate barriers and how to navigate the system to combat or eliminate those barriers. And those are basic needs, basic barriers. So we're covering the roof over your head, we're covering 3 meals a day, we have a computer lab, we have a place to sleep. We immediately place your children or help you place your children into school through the case management. Once the children are stable, then we begin working on the action plans that the mother or single woman may have. And we covered some of those earlier. We couldn't mention all of the immediate barriers that our population comes in with because it would be too extensive. But knowing that those basic needs are going to be taken care of on a weekly basis is going to be very important because it's going to lead to level 2. The weekly follow-up through the case management is supposed to be scheduled. So you're supposed to schedule your participant this week for next week. to be able to see. And you will do that by knowing participants' schedule. If they have to go to appointments next week, if they have some job interviews, if they're going to school. As a case manager, you're supposed to know the participant and every detail of the participant's life while they're going through this program. The participant should not be coming at you at the last minute and saying, oh, I have an appointment over here, I need a bus pass. You need to be proactive in knowing this ahead of time. You need to know, you have to walk with them. A participant needs to go to school, you might need to go to school with the participant. Some people are proactive and motivated and ready to go. Some need a little bit of a hands-on. And so as a case manager, you are there for them. And they need to feel you that you are there for them. As you follow up with the participant on a weekly basis, you are going over the action plans that have been set out and seeing if the participant has done what they needed to do to overcome those immediate barriers that they have. If the participant has not, then you need to revisit that particular issue and see why it didn't happen, and then move forward with an action plan to make sure that it does happen. Or maybe it's no longer relevant. So in action plan forms, you remove it and you put another action plan on another need that this person may have. Do not overwhelm the participant with a whole bunch of action plans. I want you to go step by step with the participant, because if you put a whole bunch of stuff in there, they're already going through some stressful situation, and it's going to be very difficult for them to cope. And coping is very important. Knowing how to cope is very important. Teaching how to cope is very important. So make sure that you do that. Again, it's that line of communication that you have with the participant, that the participant, we want the participant to know that you are their advocate. You are the person that's going to help them through this. They need to feel comfortable. They need to feel that here is where they're going to make it. This is the place where they're going to eliminate any issues they may have been carrying from the past. Advocacy is very important. When I told you about going with them to fill out a FAFSA application or to an appointment, or making sure that they follow up with a referral, talking for them to either government agencies or family members or institutions, that's very important. You have to have that release of information that gives you authorization to talk. And remember, when you're calling for them, you have to say that you have authorization, and you may need the participant here, because the participant herself may have to tell them, I'm giving authorization to such and such case manager to speak on my behalf, and then that's when you step in and you speak on their behalf. So be mindful of that. You are the lead here. Okay? And life skills. You have to conduct life skills once a week. We have a tailor-made curriculum designed by interns from universities that are going to cover an array of topics that really focus on the population that we're serving. But we're not just privy to that. You can expound on that. You can bring other topics that you may see fit onto the table. I know that not too long ago, it's very important, there was a life skill session in which it was discussed on how to appropriately dispose of certain items that are private to women, and so this was important to let them know. A lot of families and individuals coming to San Jose Obrero with some tools or lack thereof that they need. And some of them are life skills tools that they don't have, whether it is they need a refresher or they were never exposed to it before. I know that you may have some participants that may frown upon doing chores, and chores are very important, and chores are part of living out there. So these are some of the things that you may have to come across. The second piece to this is to make sure that everything is being captured in the database and the HMIS system. The HMIS system is the Homeless Management Information System that was implemented by the federal government, and is mandatory. In there, all the information you capture from intake, assessment, action plans, weekly follow-up, advocacy, life skills, and more is going to be captured on both of these databases. Now, the reason why we have our own personal database is because the government database, which is the HMIS, only captures those things that, and report on those things that are designed for them only. So we couldn't really capture data that we would want to provide to a funder or a future funder for that matter. So the San Jose Obrero database was developed by Lumity and implemented in order for us to have a more detailed orientation of our population, along with some track record that's going to let us know where are good points, where are bad points, what do we need to modify, what do we need to take out, what do we need to enhance. This information is very important. Another thing I want you to focus on is that you are supervising program staff. Program staff are the first line of defense at San Jose Obrero Mission. They are at the front door. They make sure participants come in on time, make sure they're not bringing contraband, make sure they're doing their chores, make sure that they are properly taking care of their kids. If it's in this program right here, make sure they're appropriately dressed, and communicating that is very important. So they are in line, you supervise them, but they are in line with you to make sure that there's a balance in the system. What is that balance? Well, if program staff are making sure that we do the residential placement and the bed assignment, so we stabilize the participant through program staff, provide them with hygiene stuff, linen, clothing, anything that they come in that they need, the program staff is going to take care of this, okay? They're also going to be in charge of the orientation. They're going to give the participant a tour. They're going to show the participant some of the rules and in the areas, what is the do's and what is the don'ts and stuff like that. The third thing is the program staff are to make sure the participants are following the rules and regulations of this agency. And when the participants do that, the program staff does a written warning on the participant and provides that to the case manager. Well, the case manager is not supposed to come down on the participant per se, but the line of communication with the case manager and participants should be so good that the case manager should be able to address any fallouts from anything that the participant has done and find out why is the participant feeling like they do not have to adhere to the program. And once they find out why, then they need to be able to encourage a behavior condition that's going to ensure a proper and successful transition to our program into their own apartment. So the communication is not, from the case manager and the participant, it's not about really coming down, but instead discussing how we can work this so that this does not happen again, because it is jeopardizing your stay here at the agency. It's very important that the case manager communicates with program staff, because program staff see things that case manager may not be able to, because they're here 24/7 and case managers are only here throughout the week. So program staff may be able to come up at you and say, hey, I've seen some behavior exhibited by a participant who I feel is a little bit uncomfortable or whatever, and then it's your job to look into that by having a conversation that will lead to the participant opening up as opposed to interrogation. We don't want to interrogate. We want them to come through with this information. So this verbal communication, this connection with the participant is very, very important. Some of the documentation, and I say some because we want all documentation, but just to be aware of some of the documentation that you need. Any referrals that you do with the participant has to be documented and placed on the file. Referrals can be anywhere from Taller de José to Instituto del Progreso Latino to even the public aid office. Appointments, you need to know ahead of time, and you need to teach the participant ahead of time to be proactive in not only knowing to make appointments ahead of time to provide them with transportation, but giving you that information so that you can help the participant being successful in their appointments that they need, whether it is to the doctor or to any institution that they need to go to. So that's very important. We provide transportation, and you need to capture documentation on that so that we can keep track of what's going out, who's going where, and these dollars, we don't get funded by them, by anybody at this point, I don't believe. So It's very important that we are strategic on how we use it. We also have a 50-passenger transportation van, and this van can be used, and you can take charge of making sure this van is being used by transporting participants in groups from one place to another. Like in the future, when we have job fairs coming up, we want to be able to load the van up and take them to the job fair appropriately dressed with resumes and everything, getting ready to look for employment. Warnings and outcomes. When you receive a warning and you address it with the participant, you need to relay the outcome of that warning with the program staff. Remember, program staff is not your enemy, they're your help. And you also have to be mindful as a supervisor of program staff's behavior and ensure that program staff's behavior is consistent with what you need here. Program staff, although they're supposed to ensure that participants follow the rules, program staff are not to react or behave as if they were dictators. They need to be able to effectively communicate when a participant is not doing what they're supposed to be doing. And they need to be able to effectively communicate to you this information. If you feel that program staff needs some training, professional development on communication, then we need to do so. So as a supervisor, you also are in charge of making sure that program staff's behavior is consistent with what we're looking for: dignity, respect, compassion, and leadership. Very important. Leadership to not be confused with authoritarian behavior. Leadership is different. Case notes. Every time you put a case note on the HMIS system, you need to print it out and put it on the file. I want to be able to see if you gave a referral to go somewhere, then a case note should be there to attest to this referral right here. They go hand in hand, as well as appointments. You're going to case note everything. If a participant came in and had a 5-minute conversation with you about something, you need to put that in the system. If you did something for the participant, you need to put that in the system, and that needs to come out and go in the file. Income documentation through Main Street benefits or through employment, or even a employment verification form. Income documentation is very important to show that participant has made a stride in here, has successfully completed a basic component of this agency, which is to be able to find income. So, in any way whatsoever, you know, we have some participants that may have their own business going, you know, so all that needs to be captured in the file. And then departures. Departures are very important. I want to see, when a participant leaves, I want to see a letter from where they're going, or a lease, a rent receipt, a security deposit receipt, an application. I want to see, I need to know that all participants leaving this agency where they're going. I want to give you some highlights as to what outcomes we need here. Out of all the population that we serve in 1 year, 50 of those have to gain income. 100% have to be assessed for Main Street benefits. 50% have to gain housing, permanent housing. And out of those 50%, 50% have to do it in 120 days. I hope that I was able to give you an overview as to what is it that we're looking for here through case management, and that your placement here is a successful one and a very promising one professionally. We're going to assist you in everything that we can, and so we hope that any needs or any help that you have or need, that you communicate it to us so that we can take care of you. So welcome to San Jose Obrero, our new case manager.